But if you look at it, it's all control. And then why is the CIA funding third world country record labels? Why is that happening?
Right. Well, Kim Porter, that is Diddy's ex, who's also the mother of his 3 of his children,
Right.
has detailed the alleged abuse that she suffered at his hands.
Oh, no.
And this is all in a...
We've all seen the headlines, the courtroom flashes, the viral clips of a once untouchable music boss now stuck under a harsh spotlight. But what's unfolding right now isn't just about the fall of Sean Diddy Combs. It's the first move in a much colder, more calculated chess match. This situation has started dragging his own family into the frame. Federal investigators aren't only locked in on Diddy anymore. They're reportedly examining the people closest to him, including his twin daughters, Jesse and Delilah Combs, as part of a broader pressure strategy. Sources close to the situation stress this isn't about blaming the twins or painting them as criminals. It's about proximity, access, and leverage in a high-stakes federal probe. To be clear, the twins are minors, and no wrongdoing has been proven or formally alleged against them. Any scrutiny described here centers on their possible awareness of household operations, not criminal intent, and legal experts say minors are typically handled with extreme caution and protections.
That he has with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case you would have others charged, it was a statute designed to get mob bosses. Trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems or criminal acts.
The timing still feels wild. Following recent legal developments involving Diddy, where some charges stuck and others didn't, the focus appears to be shifting toward mapping his inner circle and financial trail. Insiders say the twins' names surface only because of their closeness to daily logistics, not because they're targets. For years, Diddy's world ran on privacy, power, and locked doors. Now investigators are reportedly peeling back layers, hunting for records, communications, and assets tied to his empire. Every move feels deliberate, every angle strategic, and the pressure is clearly climbing fast. One former prosecutor, speaking quietly off the record, summed it up like this: if you want a king to talk, you don't start with the king, you squeeze the people around him. That line alone says everything about how ruthless this strategy can get.
This new audio from the Diddy trial, and it is pretty explosive. This is audio of a voicemail that Diddy left to the Jane Doe who's been testifying in this trial for the last couple days. And he sounds really annoyed. It's talking about her maybe giving him the silent treatment. And his response is, I got a busy life. I can't be dealing with your silent treatment. And we got to keep...
But this is where the narrative starts feeling heavier and more controversial. The twins aren't being portrayed by insiders as just background figures watching chaos unfold from the sidelines. Investigators are reportedly looking at whether members of Diddy's inner household were involved in last-minute cleanup efforts before federal activity escalated. To be absolutely clear, Jesse and Delilah are minors, and no charges or formal accusations exist against them. Any claims floating around are unproven, heavily disputed, and viewed by legal experts as speculative at best. Authorities typically focus on adult decision-makers, not children, and any mention of the twins centers on what adults around them may have done, not criminal intent on their part. Still, sources claim there was a sudden rush to lock things down. Files allegedly disappeared, accounts shifted, and digital footprints grew quieter right before March 2024 raids made headlines. Their online presence flipped overnight, posts gone, comments shut off, silence replacing years of flashy moments. Then there's the money angle. Private jets, luxury rides, high fashion access, all tied to accounts now under intense scrutiny. While lawyers scramble to keep the business structure standing, the spotlight keeps widening. And looming over all of this is the 50-cent factor.
Get out in front of this and, try to persuade Netflix not to come forward with it. I think it's an interesting argument because what they're claiming is, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has had a longstanding, animosity against Diddy and sort of vice versa. And because he's at the helm, they're arguing this can't be taken seriously. This should sort of be seen as propaganda. And one of the things that Netflix hit back with was, yes, he's the executive producer. He doesn't necessarily have creative control. And that's something
The rapper turned producer has been loud about his long-running feud with Diddy. His Netflix docuseries, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, exploded in December 2025, racking up over 21 million views in its first week alone. The series doesn't just revisit allegations, it paints a chilling picture of power, control, and an inner circle built to protect the brand at all costs. But 50 Cent's real power move wasn't just the documentary. It was how public attention flipped hard on Diddy's family, almost overnight. Clips pulled from the twins' TikTok accounts became viral ammo. What used to be harmless vlogs, breakfast routines, shopping days, everyday teen moments, suddenly got swarmed with memes, nasty comments, and non-stop harassment tied directly to the documentary's storyline. The backlash hit fast. Jesse and Delilah eventually shut down their comment sections, but by then, the internet had already made up its mind. The court of public opinion moved quicker than any judge ever could, and federal investigators reportedly noticed the shift. What makes this moment especially tense is the twins' visibility in the months before their father's trial. While Diddy's legal team leaned hard into the image of him as a devoted family man, the girls were still very online, showing off access, connections, and status. At one point, things even escalated into a public back and forth with 50 Cent himself adding fuel to an already raging spotlight. Then came October, during Diddy's sentencing. The twins gave emotional statements in court, asking for leniency. Delilah, visibly shaken, told the judge, "Our 2-year-old sister is asking, 'Where is Dad?' A plea that clearly aimed straight at the heart. At the time, it landed. But now, legal analysts say those same words are being re-examined, not as confessions, but as indicators of awareness. What they knew when they knew it, and how adults around them may have acted afterward. No charges, no formal accusations, especially given they are minors. Still, the pressure is rising, the scrutiny is sharper, and every past move is now being replayed frame by frame.
We're in the unit that was one floor above mine. So in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is. Yeah.
But here's where things really start shaking the room. Court records reviewed by multiple outlets reveal a complicated web of financial ties connected to Diddy's business world, and the twins' names appear in places that are now drawing serious attention. According to filings, Jesse and Delilah were listed as beneficiaries on several corporate entities connected to properties owned by their father, including the well-known Beverly Hills mansion that's already tied to some of the most controversial accusations surrounding his empire. Legal experts stress this does not mean wrongdoing, especially since the twins are minors, but it does explain why investigators are asking hard questions about how these structures were set up. One entity, registered in Delaware back in 2022, is now under review for its payment activity. Some of the names linked to those transactions have surfaced in civil lawsuits tied to Diddy's legal battles. Paperwork reportedly includes signatures, but attorneys emphasize that in wealthy families, minors are often named without direct involvement or understanding. Photos from past events are also being re-examined. Investigators are reportedly trying to separate appearances from intent. Were the twins simply present in family settings, or were adults around them using proximity for cover? That distinction matters, and it's huge. And the pressure isn't just coming from law enforcement. Industry rivals are circling. 50 Cent's documentary didn't just spotlight allegations, it openly suggested that loyalty inside Diddy's family circle could hold unanswered truths. Then there's Usher. Diddy's former protege has seen old interviews resurface, including a 2016 Howard Stern appearance where he spoke about witnessing inappropriate adult behavior as a teenager. Those comments are now being revisited, not as proof, but as context for the environment investigators are mapping. And that leads to the real question. Will Jesse and Delilah ever speak independently through attorneys if asked? The federal playbook is old school: pressure, isolation, patience. But these aren't just potential witnesses, they're daughters raised in a world where loyalty meant everything.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. People who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have
Just weeks ago, their social posts still read like devotion. Designer bags, luxury flashes, captions saying, "Daddy's girls forever." Now every post, every document, every move is under a microscope, and the tension is only getting louder. Even now, the twins' TikTok accounts, comments wiped clean, still show them lip-syncing to their father's old hits, moving like nothing ever changed. It feels frozen in time, like nostalgia on repeat. But federal investigators aren't scrolling for vibes. They're tracking records, timestamps, and trails that don't disappear with a delete button. According to legal analysts, attention in cases like this often centers on logistics. Transaction histories, account activity, deleted messages, and security footage from properties tied to ongoing investigations. None of this suggests guilt, especially when minors are involved. But it explains why authorities look at who was present, who had access, and who might know what happened behind closed doors. What's unfolding feels less like a standard legal process and more like a pressure cooker. The tension isn't just legal, it's emotional and psychological. The twins are reportedly caught in an impossible position, balancing loyalty to their father with the need to protect their own futures. And that pressure only grows as time passes. Diddy's sentencing may be in the past, but insiders say the broader investigation is far from over. The focus has widened beyond one man to the full ecosystem around him. The businesses, the associates, the silence, the systems that kept everything running. Meanwhile, the entertainment industry is watching in dead silence. Artists, executives, former insiders, anyone who ever crossed paths with Diddy's world are paying close attention. Not because of certainty, but because of uncertainty. The fear isn't about what's proven, it's about what could come out if more people start talking. And right now, speculation alone is enough to rattle nerves across the industry. One thing is clear, federal agencies don't apply this kind of pressure casually. When families get pulled into the spotlight, it's rarely about spectacle. It's about leverage and unraveling entire structures. In Diddy's case, insiders believe the real collapse isn't behind him yet. It's still unfolding, layer by layer, with consequences that could reach far beyond anyone's expectations.
So maybe the judge is going to give him more than time served.
But we should say that the maximum he could get is 20 years.
And that's what I want to get into for a minute, because this is some racist you-know-what, this man act.
The deeper investigators look into the twins' financial connections, the more the timeline starts lining up in uncomfortable ways. On paper, the spending patterns don't just show luxury, they trace the same moments when Diddy's legal pressure was intensifying. Court records cited by legal analysts indicate that Jesse and Delilah were listed as authorized signers on several business-related accounts connected to their father starting in 2023. Attorneys are quick to point out that in high-net-worth families, minors are sometimes added to accounts for administrative or future estate reasons, not because they're running operations. Still, these accounts reportedly covered everything from private jet travel to major payouts tied to ongoing legal disputes. One account, associated with a Delaware-based entity known as Combs Family Ventures, showed a burst of transactions just weeks before federal raids took place. Large sums, reportedly over $200,000, were moved out in smaller increments. Financial experts say that pattern can raise eyebrows, but context matters, especially when minors may be acting under adult instruction without full understanding. Documents referenced include initials and internal approvals, which prosecutors are now reviewing carefully. The central question isn't reckless spending, it's intent. Were the twins simply accessing funds they were told were theirs, or were adults around them directing movements behind the scenes? Public appearances added fuel to the speculation. In the months leading up to Diddy's arrest, Jesse and Delilah were frequently photographed with high-end designer items, sharing first-class travel moments and promoting a fashion venture insiders say was financed through family-linked media entities. Again, no wrongdoing has been alleged or proven against the twins, but the optics couldn't be worse. At the same time, Diddy's legal costs were exploding. Reports estimate his defense team spent over $10 million in 2024 alone. Despite that, financial records suggest the twins continued receiving six-figure allowances tied to revenue streams from his music catalog.
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive
For investigators, it's not about flash, it's about flow. Money leaves trails, even when wrapped in luxury. And right now, every transfer, every receipt, and every approval is being replayed under a microscope. One former accountant tied to Bad Boy Records, speaking anonymously, didn't mince words. They claimed the twins weren't just names on paperwork, but visible parts of the family structure that kept things moving. That claim is strongly disputed, and no charges exist against Jesse or Delilah, but it explains why investigators are digging so hard into the financial side. Legal experts stress this distinction loudly. If authorities could ever prove that any transactions were intentionally structured to protect assets from seizure, responsibility would fall on the adults who designed those systems, not minors acting under direction. Still, the paper trail is being examined line by line. But money is only half the equation. Investigators are also reportedly mapping social dynamics, who was present, who had access, and how family members appeared in public-facing roles. Sources, including former Bad Boy employees, allege that the twins were frequently present at high-profile events connected to their father's brand. Important context matters here. Jesse and Delilah were minors at the time of these events. Any suggestion of wrongdoing is firmly denied, and experts emphasize that minors attending family-hosted events does not imply involvement in adult behavior. That said, former staffers describe the twins as highly visible, greeting guests, moving through VIP spaces, and appearing alongside industry figures. One former security worker from a 2022 Beverly Hills event described the twins as part of the hosting environment, a claim that remains unverified and disputed. Social media only intensified attention. In posts later deleted, the twins were photographed with artists and executives who have since been named in civil lawsuits connected to Diddy. A saved Instagram story, circulated by fan accounts, showed them backstage at a Revolt TV event next to adults now mentioned in federal filings. Again, proximity is not proof, but investigators are now replaying every appearance, every post, every interaction. Not because the twins are accused, but because understanding who knew what inside Diddy's world has become the central mission. And right now, every shadow in that orbit is being examined under a blazing light. One caption keeps popping back up in screenshots: family business. Another post, taken from a yacht party in Miami, tagged a DJ who later testified in a civil case about seeing minors at Diddy-related events. The twins' legal team has brushed these connections off as coincidence, stressing there's no wrongdoing on their part, but prosecutors reportedly see the same pattern repeating wherever their father's controversies surface. From the outside, it looks like the twins were always positioned front and center. And then there's the public clash with 50 Cent, a moment that now feels less like impulsive teen behavior and more like a deliberate response to pressure. When 50's documentary dropped, Jesse and Delilah didn't just lock down their comment sections, they fired back in their own way. Cryptic posts started appearing. Phrases like loyalty over everything and blood doesn't lie flashed across their feeds. To fans, it looked emotional. To analysts, it looked strategic.
The haters bring you down. Just keep going. Keep chasing your passions and dreams no matter what. Yeah. Do not let negative people get between you and...
The timing raised eyebrows fast. Just days after the documentary's release, trademark filings appeared for a new merchandise line under the Twins brand. One design reportedly featured the phrase "Diddy made" across the back of a hoodie, a move PR experts called shocking, given the moment. Insiders say it may have been meant as a signal, a message to allies that the family wasn't backing down. But federal investigators were watching closely, and now those trademarks are reportedly being reviewed as possible attempts to profit from notoriety while legal battles continued. What's becoming harder to ignore is that the twins' loyalty doesn't stop at emotion, it shows up in action. Since their father's arrest, their posts have leaned heavily into unity. Old family photos, throwback videos, captions about unbreakable bonds. No accusations, no charges, especially given they are minors. But every post, every phrase, every move is now being read differently. Because in moments like this, loyalty isn't just personal. It becomes part of the story and possibly part of the strategy. But the moment that raised the most eyebrows came inside the courtroom itself. During Diddy's sentencing, Jesse and Delilah delivered emotional statements that dominated headlines. Most people heard daughters asking for mercy, but legal watchers heard something else entirely. Their words were precise, carefully framed around the idea that their father was still needed in their lives. One courtroom analyst put it bluntly, that wasn't just emotion, that was messaging. And if investigators are reading it right, that message wasn't only meant for the judge. It may have been aimed at Diddy's associates too, a quiet signal that the family was still unified, still loyal, still standing together. But since that day, cracks have started to peek through. In the weeks after sentencing, the twins' social media behavior reportedly turned erratic, posts popping up, then disappearing within hours, stories going live, then vanishing without explanation. And then, sudden silence around one very noticeable subject. Their mother, Kim Porter. Since her passing in 2018, Jesse and Delilah have been under Diddy's full care. Now, sources say Porter's family has been cooperating with investigators, sharing insight into the twins' upbringing and the level of control surrounding their lives. One close friend of Porter reportedly said, Kim would be horrified. She raised those girls to think for themselves. That comment hit hard. What's even louder is what's missing. The twins have stopped posting tributes to their mother entirely. No throwbacks, no anniversaries, no mentions. Observers say that shift hasn't gone unnoticed, and some believe it signals pressure to stay firmly on their father's side. Across the entertainment world, people are watching closely. This isn't just family tension, it's a stress test. A look at how far authorities will go when dismantling a dynasty built on power, loyalty, and silence. Diddy's empire wasn't just music, it was influence. And now, that silence is starting to feel dangerously fragile. But now, with the twins caught directly in the crosshairs, that long-standing silence is starting to crack. And if Jesse and Delilah ever decide to speak, the names that could surface wouldn't just shake one legacy, they could rattle entire careers. Just look at how fast the industry has pulled back. Artists who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Diddy have quietly stepped away in the aftermath of the allegations. Usher, who once referred to Diddy's home as his first school, has gone completely radio silent. Justin Bieber, whose early appearances with Diddy keep resurfacing in unsettling viral clips, cut ties years ago and hasn't looked back. Even Jay-Z, whose name briefly appeared in a now-deleted lawsuit filing, has noticeably avoided any public show of support. The message inside the industry is loud without being spoken. Diddy's downfall is one thing, but if his daughters ever start naming names, the fallout wouldn't stop with him. That's what makes this moment so dangerous. Because the twins aren't just defending their father, they're standing in the middle of a system that spent decades protecting powerful men. And here's the twist. That same system may already be turning its back on them. Sources connected to Revolt TV and Battled Media Network say the twins' attempts to launch their fashion line through company-linked connections hit immediate resistance. Doors that once flew open are now shut tight. One industry executive reportedly admitted the brand had become toxic overnight. Even their modeling opportunities have reportedly dried up. Jesse and Delilah once walked in a major 2021 fashion show, but insiders say the brand has since quietly distanced itself. No announcements, no statements, just silence. The signal couldn't be clearer. The Combs name, once a golden ticket, is now viewed as a liability, and the twins are feeling that shift in real time. So now the question hangs heavy in the air. Where does this leave Jesse and Delilah, and how far will the fallout really go if the silence finally breaks? Right now, Jesse and Delilah are stuck in the tightest spot imaginable. Pulled between a father who raised them to believe loyalty is the only currency that matters, and a legal system that believes that same loyalty might unlock everything he's been hiding. Their next move doesn't just shape their futures, it could shake everyone still tied to the Combs legacy. This is the real crossroads. Do they double down, trusting that their father's influence survives the legal storm? Or do they step back, protect themselves, and walk away from a world that's been controlling every move since childhood? That choice isn't just emotional, it's seismic. Because even if it means breaking from the man who ran their lives, one thing is crystal clear. Federal investigators don't make family moves by accident. When they pull relatives into the spotlight, it's never just about one case. It's about tearing down the whole structure. And in Diddy's situation, insiders say that structure is already cracking. The collapse doesn't hit all at once. It comes layer by layer, loyalty by loyalty. So let's put it on you. If you were in their shoes, what would you do? Stay quiet and risk going down with the ship? or break ranks and become the most dangerous witnesses hip-hop has ever seen? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. This story is far from finished, and trust us, the next chapter could change everything. Stay locked in, stay sharp, and we'll catch you in the next one.